at the base of this kind of somewhat dead fir tree, a whole pile of debris. There's a couple holes. This is a really good example of how critters leave sign in the forest, and so this is what we're looking for Sasquatch. We're looking for signs of his passing, of the great beast having gone through the forest and leaving something behind to show us that he was there. This old guy who lived up, we call it the Blueberry Barrens, a big bunch of blueberries up there, and he told me that he had tracked what looked like a barefoot footprint in the snow for several miles. He finally gave up on tracking it, and he spoke to another person who had also tracked the same thing. They didn't know what it was. They couldn't imagine, in the middle of the wintertime, that a person would be running around barefoot in the snow. And it wasn't me. So anyways, we're gonna go down in there and check for stick figures and any sign of Sasquatch. There's a lot of dangers in the forest. There's the wolves that will kill and eat you, the mountain lions that will kill and eat you, and the bears that will chase you, torture you, dismember you, and eat you. A lot of people aren't aware that there's actually a fair number of reports of Sasquatch in Maine, more so historically, but there have been some in recent times. Several sightings have occurred around Mount Katahdin, the highest mountain in the state of Maine. A band of Boy Scouts, which are known for being honest, reported seeing Sasquatch, some type of upright walking critter, on one of the ledges up on Mount Katahdin. And I think it was just a couple years after that, these women reported seeing two Sasquatches who they said went off through through this little meadow area, holding hands, and were butt naked. There seems to be like a corridor towards the upper northern half. The other rash of sightings that you seem to get are down in the Turner-Hebron area. It seems to be localized. And there's I think it's Pleasant Stream. It'd be relatively easy to cruise that stream looking for tracks. We found this maple tree that had been repeatedly broken off. The branches had been broken. They were like X's. No matter what direction you looked at it, it had like X's formed on it. And you could see where something was going up and breaking the branches, just snapping them. They'd heal in that broke position, and then a new piece of growth would come up. And when we came upon it, the woods were really quiet that day. It was really it was a spooky place. And the top had been broken off as higher than I could reach, and the vegetation hadn't even wilted yet. The maple leaves were still fresh, and moose will browse upon maple, and there was a ton of moose sign up there, but it just didn't seem like something. It was too high for a moose to have the moose would have had to have been 14 feet tall to have been tall enough to have straddled that to break that top off. And when we were leaving there, we were on like this secondary road, and that was really spooky too. There was tall vegetation and thick forest beyond it. And something, I don't know what the hell it was. It went too fast for us to get a picture of it. And it was gray in color, and it appeared to be running on all fours, but it ran weird. It kind of ran like a bear. Sometimes a bear will stand up like this. And then when they get ready to run, they go down and they kind of do this kind of a running thing with their front paws, and their hind butt sticks up. It kind of ran like that, except it wasn't a bear. It was this kind of silvery gray, like coyote colored. It was kind of queer. It kind of ran funny. So maybe it was a juvenile Sasquatch. It'd be a good place for Team Taser Bigfoot to go back and recon that area. The Tomar Flowage. Yeah, I would say it's a big coyote track, really big. Right down through there. Plenty of rabbits in here for them to eat. There's just bunny tracks everywhere. Snowshoe hare poo. And they've got a super highway going through here. This is something you don't see too frequently in Maine in the middle of winter because raccoons sort of hibernate, but you can tell something's been going up this little wash here, and you got the little muddy footprints with a raccoon. Had his foot in the mud and he stuck his little handprint right there. What do I say to those naysayers that say Bigfoot is a myth? Bigfoot is not a unicorn. They used to think panda bears and gorillas were mythological too, but we have proven that they exist. Well, the white people proved they exist. The people living in the areas where the critters lived always knew they existed, just, the Western world, modern science didn't believe it. So you just never know when you're going to run in to the greatest biological discovery of the millennia, which would be finding Sasquatch, getting a photograph really clear, some convincing evidence. And being that Maine doesn't have that many Sasquatch reports, but we're 95% forested. There's like 1.5 million people living here, 29,000 moose, 23,000 black bears. There's plenty of room for a half a dozen Sasquatches. They could live here. I could take people to places where nobody goes. I haven't even been there. I mean, I know they're, where these places are, but nobody goes there. It'd be the perfect habitat. And we do have sightings. People do report sightings in Maine. And I suspect there are probably a lot of sightings that people see that they don't report for fear of being ridiculed. Because I ask everybody when I go through the gates and stuff up in the northern Great Golden Road, Northern Woods Paper Company land, I always ask the people if they see Sasquatch, and they look at me like I'm nuts. They look at you like you're nuts if you asked if you've seen mountain lions, but they really look at you like you're crazy if you ask about Sasquatch. A porcupine trail, their front paws will go in with their hind paws. They got some pretty impressive claws that make little claw marks, but you can tell they're like little tiny bear tracks almost, and they waddle when they walk back and forth. And you can see right here where they've been peeing. They do a lot of peeing and pooping. Oh yeah, and look, these are oh look, more porcupine.
Goodness.
So they're probably in this tree right
Look
here.
Look at that. There's tons of it.
Yeah, that means they were in this tree. They might still be in this tree for all we know. Well, the porcupines are thick in here. Oh, good find. Yeah.
So he was probably sitting on that thing and just pooping.
Well, they were probably, this might be a winter tree for them. I don't know if it's hollow or not. It's an old, looks like an old sugar maple. But yeah, they've been hanging out here pooping. And this is the trail. This is where and you can tell right here, this is where they're coming over. And then they're climbing up this tree.
Yeah.
Right here, they've worn. Oh, and there's the hollow part right there. That's where they're going in. See that big hole back up there?
Oh gosh, yeah.
That's a nest tree, the porcupines. There might even be a porcupine in there right now. The porcupines, you can see where they've worn the bark.
Yeah.
See how the bark is a different color in here?
Yeah.
This is where the porcupines are coming down, and here's their tracks.
This porcupine winter nesting tree that we found provides a perfect example for what Sasquatch might do. This is a fair-sized tree, but you get up in certain parts in Maine, there are massive trees, giant pine trees. It is conceivable that Sasquatch could climb up into the top and actually find hollows to get in out of the weather and to get into places to hide.
This is so cool. These are the quills from a porcupine. This is another nest tree that they've been climbing. You can see the quills, some of the quills stuck in. And they're barbed at the end and hollow, really nasty. A guy I work with got one of these in his leg, in his foot. 15 years later it came out at a Red Sox baseball game, came out of his shoulder. Had migrated all the way from his leg, all the way up through his body, came out by his shoulder. I've fooled around quite a bit with porcupines. I've been really lucky. I've never gotten these quills in me, but I've had the unfortunate experience of pulling these out of numerous dogs that I've had. The dogs will go after these porcupines and come back with their face just filled with them. They're an excellent defense mechanism for the porcupine, although bobcats and fishers and mountain lions will kill and eat porcupines in spite of them being covered in quills. Look at this. This is a sign of Sasquatch. This is a still living sapling that he has bent down and then dropped this 700-800 pound log on top of it. The only explanation I can think of is something with opposable thumbs. with incredible strength. I knew that we'd find some Sasquatch sign here. Look at that. Amazing.
Well, what if the tree just fell down naturally?
But that wouldn't account for that branch being bent over. The Sasquatch had to bend the branch over and then push the tree over on top of it. You're on Team Taser Bigfoot? That's your analysis of that sapling?
Right, I'm hysterical, right?
Don't get hysterical on me. Well, these are either porcupine tracks that we're tracking or a juvenile Sasquatch. So be on the lookout for something that looks like a gibbon. You can see that the porcupine has come over and gnawed a little bit on this hemlock tree. They'll eat the Cambrian layer of the bark. But look at that. You can see where the little tooth marks have gouged in. That's pretty cool. Right underneath this hemlock, we've noticed a bunch of freshly broken hemlock browse. You can see some snow has fallen on them since they were. It could be a Sasquatch nest. They're known to pile these up as a bedding. Like the only other explanation for this would be, well, I mean, I suppose it's possible.